Imagine you're on a remote island off the coast of Africa, thousands of miles from Asia, surrounded by African tribes, African wildlife, African culture, and then someone starts speaking to you in a language that sounds exactly like Filipino. Not similar, not close, exactly. The same words, the same grammar, the same roots. Scientists have studied this for over 200 years, and they still cannot fully explain how it happened. This is one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in human history. And today, we're going to dive deep into it. Before we go further, if you're new to this channel, please hit that subscribe button right now, tap the like button, and share this video with one friend who loves mysteries and history. We are on our way to 500 subscribers, and you are the reason we get there. Let's go. Let's set the stage. We are talking about Madagascar, a giant island sitting off the southeastern coast of Africa in the Indian Ocean. It is the fourth largest island in the world. It has African neighbors. It has African wildlife, lemurs, baobab trees, things you only find in Africa. Now look at the Philippines, a Southeast Asian archipelago of over 7,000 islands, sitting thousands of kilometers away on the other side of the Indian Ocean, past India, past Sri Lanka, past Indonesia. These two places have no land bridge. They have no obvious historical connection. They are separated by an ocean that in ancient times seemed impossible to cross. And yet, the Malagasy language, spoken by the people of Madagascar, belongs to the Austronesian language family, the same family as Tagalog, Malay, Javanese, and hundreds of Philippine and Indonesian languages. In fact, linguists have identified that Malagasy is most closely related to a language called Manyan, spoken by a small group of people in the Borneo island of Indonesia. Let me say that again. The people of Madagascar, living next to Africa, speak a language whose closest living relative is from Borneo. Okay, here is where it gets wild. Let me show you some actual words. In Malagasy, the word for eye is maso. In Tagalog, the word for eye is mata. In Malay, it's mata. In Malagasy, the word for water is rano. In many Philippine languages, water is rano, danum, or wanang, all sharing the same ancient root. In Malagasy, the word for hand is tanana. In Malay, it's tangan. In Tagalog, kamay, but in many Visayan dialects, kamot, sharing root DNA with Austronesian proto-words. Malagasy uses a verb-subject-object sentence structure, the same as many Philippine languages, which is rare globally. Linguists have traced over 3,000 vocabulary roots in Malagasy directly back to Austronesian languages of Southeast Asia. This is not coincidence. This is not borrowing. This is a genetic relationship, meaning these peoples share a common ancestor who spoke the same language. The question is, who were these people, and how did they cross one of the world's most treacherous oceans? In 2012, a landmark genetic study published in the journal PNAS, the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, dropped a bombshell. Scientists analyzed the DNA of modern Malagasy people and found something extraordinary. About 50% of their DNA traces back to Southeast Asia, specifically the region around Borneo and the Indonesian archipelago. The other 50% traces back to Bantu-speaking Africans from the East African coast, modern-day Mozambique and Tanzania. So the Malagasy people are, genetically speaking, a perfect blend, half Southeast Asian, half African. But here's the part that stunned researchers. The Southeast Asian genetic component is not spread out across many populations. It is specific. It points to a small founding population, estimated at just 30 women, who arrived in Madagascar sometime between 300 CE and 500 CE. 30 women, a tiny boat, maybe two, coming from Borneo, over 7,000 kilometers away, across open ocean, with no compass, no GPS, no modern navigation tools, and they made it. And their descendants now number over 28 million people, the entire population of Madagascar. So who were these people? Who were bold enough, or desperate enough, to sail across the Indian Ocean in ancient wooden boats? They were the Austronesians. And if you don't know about the Austronesians, stop everything, because they are arguably the greatest seafarers in human history. Starting around 3000 BCE from what is today Taiwan, the Austronesian people began spreading across the Pacific and Indian Oceans in a series of migrations that took thousands of years. They settled the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, the Pacific Islands, Fiji, Samoa, Tonga, Hawaii. They reached New Zealand, 13,000 kilometers from Taiwan. They reached Easter Island, one of the most remote places on Earth. And some, somehow, went west instead of east. They crossed the Indian Ocean. Researchers believe these were likely traders. The Indian Ocean had active trade routes even 2,000 years ago. Austronesian sailors from Borneo and Java regularly traded with India, Sri Lanka, and the Persian Gulf. Some historians believe a group of these traders, possibly fleeing conflict, possibly blown off course by storms, possibly deliberately seeking new land, ended up sailing all the way to the East African coast. And from there, they found Madagascar, an island that, at that time, was completely uninhabited. No humans, just lemurs, just forests, just possibility. And they stayed. But wait, we said the Malagasy are half African too. So what's that story? This is where it gets even more fascinating. The African contribution to Malagasy genetics comes from Bantu-speaking peoples of East Africa, likely from the area of modern Mozambique. Bantu people began migrating south and east across Africa starting around 1000 BCE, one of the largest migrations in African history. By the time the Austronesian settlers arrived in Madagascar, the Bantu had already reached the East African coast. What happened next was one of the most extraordinary cultural fusions in human history. The Austronesian settlers, coming from Borneo, and the Bantu people, coming from Africa, met on Madagascar. They intermarried. They built communities together. They created a new people, the Malagasy. And the language, the Austronesian language, won out as the primary tongue, which is why Malagasy today sounds so much like a Philippine or Indonesian language, even though the island sits off the coast of Africa. But the culture became deeply mixed. Malagasy music has African rhythms. Malagasy food has both Asian and African influences. Their traditions reflect both worlds. Madagascar became a bridge between two civilizations, a living record of ancient human movement. But even with all this evidence, the mystery is not fully solved. Scientists still argue about when exactly the settlement happened. Some say 300 CE. Some say as early as 2,000 years ago. Some recent studies suggest even earlier contact that left no lasting population. They argue about the route. Did the Austronesians sail directly across the open Indian Ocean, a terrifying journey of months? Or did they island hop along the coast of India, Arabia, and East Africa? They argue about why. Was this an accidental voyage? A deliberate colonization? A trading expedition gone too far? And here is the question that haunts me most. Why Madagascar and nowhere else? The Austronesians were everywhere. They settled the entire Pacific. They almost certainly sailed near the African coast. We know they traded with African ports, but they only permanently settled Madagascar. They didn't settle mainland Africa. They didn't settle the Seychelles or the Comoros permanently in the same way. Just Madagascar. Why this island? Was it the size, large enough to support farming and a civilization? Was it the timing, arriving before African groups reached the island? Was it fate? We may never know the full answer, and perhaps that is what makes Madagascar one of the most magical, mysterious places on the planet. Today, the descendants of those ancient Austronesian and Bantu settlers live as the Malagasy people, over 28 million strong. Their language, Malagasy, is the westernmost Austronesian language in the world. A living monument to one of history's most incredible voyages. Many Malagasy people have physical features that clearly reflect their mixed heritage. Faces that look distinctly Southeast Asian, bodies and features that blend African and Asian ancestry. Their music, called Hiragasi, sounds unlike anything else on Earth. Part African drumming, part something ancient and oceanic. Their spiritual practices, centered on ancestors called Razana, have echoes in both Austronesian ancestor worship and African traditional religion. And their cuisine, rice-based, like the Philippines, Japan, and Indonesia, stands in sharp contrast to the corn and millet traditions of mainland Africa. Rice, in a country next to Africa, because their ancestors came from a rice culture thousands of miles away. Every grain of rice in Madagascar is a whisper from the ancient past, a message from sailors who crossed an impossible ocean and never looked back. And that, my friends, is the story of how an African island ended up speaking a language from the Philippines, not through colonization, not through invasion, but through one of the most audacious, unexplained, breathtaking human voyages in all of recorded history. The Austronesians didn't just sail the Pacific, they conquered the Indian Ocean too. And they left us Madagascar, a living mystery, a genetic time capsule, a walking, talking, rice-eating reminder that human beings have always refused to stay in one place. We have always moved. We have always explored. We have always found each other across impossible distances. And that is what makes us human. Now, if this video blew your mind, please, 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 like this video right now. It tells YouTube this story deserves to be seen. Subscribe and hit the bell. We are on our way to 500 subscribers, and your support makes it happen. Share this with one person today, your friend, your family, anyone who loves history and mysteries. And drop a comment below. Tell me, which part shocked you the most? The language? The DNA? The 30 women? I read every single comment. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.